He's been indicted on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. He has faced historic, nationwide protests aimed at toppling his government. He has presided over the most significant intelligence failure in his country's history.
The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. They're accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza.
And he is now the subject of an International Criminal Court arrest warrant for alleged war crimes. Yet, Benjamin Netanyahu is still here, still in power, still at the center of Israeli and global politics. He is Israel's longest-serving prime minister, a political survivor whose career is a masterclass in the mechanics of modern power. He has been written off time and again, only to return seemingly stronger than before. How does he do it? How has one man managed to hold on for so long in one of the most volatile democracies in the world? Today, we're exploring the pillars of Netanyahu's power, the tactics, the strategies, and the system that have allowed him to defy political gravity for decades. This isn't just a story about one man. It's a story about the changing nature of power and what it takes to win in the turbulent politics of the 21st century. To understand Netanyahu, King Bibi, you have to understand the paradox he represents. He's a leader whose popularity at home has been historically low for long stretches, yet he repeatedly finds a path to victory. He is a Western-educated, fluent English speaker who projects an image of modernity, while leading one of the most right-wing, nationalist governments in Israel's history. He champions the rule of law on the world stage, while simultaneously facing a criminal trial and accusations that he has attempted to undermine his own country's judiciary. He's been in and out of the Prime Minister's office since the 1990s. In that time, he has faced down American presidents, navigated multiple wars, and stared down countless political rivals who were sure they had finally cornered him. Every scandal that should have ended his career, every protest that seemed to signal his demise, every international crisis that appeared to isolate him, none have delivered the final blow. To his supporters, he is a Churchillian figure, the only one strong enough to protect Israel from its enemies. To his detractors, he is a manipulative demagogue, sacrificing democratic norms for his own political survival. But both sides would agree on one thing: he is a master of the game. So, what are his secrets? The answer seems to lie in four key pillars that have supported his long reign. The first and most important pillar of Netanyahu's power is his carefully crafted image as Mr. Security. From the very beginning of his career, Netanyahu understood that in a country defined by conflict, the leader who appears strongest on security wins. This identity was forged in tragedy and service. Netanyahu was born in Tel Aviv in 1949 to a prominent right-wing Zionist family. After spending his high school and university years in the United States, earning degrees from MIT, he returned to Israel to serve in the Sayeret Matkal, an elite special forces unit. But it was the death of his older brother, Yoni, during the legendary 1976 Entebbe hostage rescue mission that became a defining part of his public story. Netanyahu leveraged this personal loss, framing his political ambitions as a continuation of his brother's legacy of defending the nation. He founded an anti-terrorism institute and became a sought-after voice on security matters, particularly in America, where his flawless, American-accented English and confident demeanor made him a media staple. When he entered politics, first as Israel's ambassador to the UN, and later as the leader of the Likud party, this was his brand. He presented himself as the guardian of the Jewish state, the clear-eyed realist who understood the existential threats facing Israel. He was a fierce critic of the Oslo peace accords in the 1990s, arguing they were naive and dangerous. Throughout his career, he has consistently used the language of fear and existential threat. Whether it's the danger of a nuclear Iran, the rockets of Hezbollah and Hamas, or the threat of international isolation, Netanyahu's message is always the same. Israel is surrounded by enemies. and only he has the strength and experience to navigate these dangers. This narrative becomes especially powerful during times of crisis. When conflicts erupt, domestic political divisions often fade into the background. For instance, in mid-2025, just as his government faced the possibility of collapse over a contentious military draft law, the outbreak of a direct conflict with Iran changed the political calculus overnight. Opponents who were calling for his resignation just days earlier rallied behind him, with key opposition figures stating that, on the issue of Iran, there is no left or right, only a united front. This rally around the flag effect has repeatedly given Netanyahu political breathing room when he needs it most. He frames every decision through the lens of national survival, casting his political opponents as weak, inexperienced, or worse, unpatriotic. This transforms political disagreements into matters of life and death, making it incredibly difficult for rivals to challenge him without appearing to endanger the country itself. The second pillar of Netanyahu's power is his incredible command of Israel's chaotic political system. Israeli politics is not for the faint of heart. It's a system of proportional representation, which means the parliament, or Knesset, is highly fragmented. No single party has ever won an outright majority in the country's history. To rule, you have to build a coalition. This system is a breeding ground for political maneuvering, backroom deals, and fragile alliances. And in this arena, Netanyahu is a grand master. For decades, he's shown an almost supernatural ability to build and maintain complex and often contradictory coalitions. He has formed governments with secular centrists, ultra-orthodox religious parties, and far-right nationalists, often at the same time. His primary tactic is divide and conquer. He is an expert at identifying the wedges that can split his opposition. He understands the deep ideological, religious, and personal divides that run through Israeli society and its political class, and he exploits them ruthlessly. He will make promises to one potential partner while making contradictory promises to another, keeping everyone off balance and preventing them from forming a united bloc against him. He knows that in a system with so many small parties, each with its own narrow interests, he can remain in power not by being loved, but by being necessary. He makes himself the indispensable man, the only one who can cobble together a majority from the disparate pieces of the political puzzle. This was on full display after he was briefly ousted from power in 2021. The government that replaced him was a historically diverse anti-Netanyahu coalition of parties from the right, left, and centre, including, for the first time, an independent Arab party. It was dubbed the Change Government, but Netanyahu, as leader of the opposition, worked relentlessly to exploit its internal contradictions. He knew the coalition was fragile, held together only by a shared desire to keep him out of office. Within a year, it collapsed, and in the subsequent 2022 election, Netanyahu stormed back to power, this time at the head of the most right-wing government in Israel's history. Even when he's not in power, he remains a kingmaker, the dominant figure around which all political calculations must resolve. His resilience is a direct result of his deep understanding of the system's weaknesses and his willingness to do whatever it takes to exploit them. The third pillar is Netanyahu's sophisticated and often combative relationship with the media. Long before it was fashionable for politicians, Netanyahu understood the power of speaking directly to the public, bypassing the traditional media filter. He was an early and effective adopter of social media, using platforms like Facebook and Twitter to broadcast his own video messages, control his own narrative, and rally his base. His messaging is disciplined, repetitive, and effective. He has a handful of core themes: security, strength, victimization, and he hammers them home relentlessly. He often portrays himself as a victim, under attack from a biased and hostile media, which he labels the lamestream media, or part of a deep state conspiracy to oust him. This narrative resonates deeply with his supporters, who have been conditioned to distrust established news outlets. This strategy serves two purposes. First, it inoculates him against negative coverage. When news of his corruption investigations broke, for example, he didn't just deny the allegations, he framed the entire process as a politically motivated witch hunt. For his loyal base, the charges were not evidence of wrongdoing, but proof that the elites were trying to take down their champion. His ongoing trial, which began in May 2020, has been marked by his consistent claim that the accusations are fake. Second, it allows him to set the agenda. By constantly attacking the media, he forces journalists to cover his attacks, drawing attention away from substantive policy debates or his own legal troubles. One of the criminal cases against him, Case 4000, involves allegations that he provided regulatory favors to a media mogul in exchange for positive news coverage, demonstrating just how central the control of media narratives is to his political strategy. This direct-to-voter approach has reshaped Israeli politics. It has personalized the political landscape, transforming Likud from a party of ideology into a party that is, for all intents and purposes, a vehicle for Netanyahu's personal power. He is not just the leader of the party, he is the party. This has created a powerful bond with his voters, a bond that has proven remarkably resistant to scandals and setbacks. The fourth pillar is a mix of economic policy and identity politics. While often overshadowed by his focus on security, Netanyahu's economic vision has been a crucial part of his appeal. He is a champion of free market capitalism. And during his long tenure as both Prime Minister and Finance Minister, he oversaw policies that privatized state-owned companies, cut taxes, and opened Israel's economy to global markets. This helped create Israel's Silicon Wadi, a thriving high-tech sector that produced enormous wealth and earned Israel the nickname the Startup Nation. These policies cultivated a loyal base of support among entrepreneurs, the business community, and a growing middle class that benefited from the economic boom. For these voters, Netanyahu delivered prosperity and stability, and they have consistently rewarded him for it. However, this economic growth wasn't evenly distributed. It also led to a rising cost of living and growing inequality, creating social tensions. Netanyahu countered this by skillfully weaving economic arguments with powerful identity politics. He positions himself as the defender of a certain kind of Israeliness, traditional, proud, and suspicious of liberal elites. He appeals to a powerful coalition of voters who feel left behind or disrespected by the secular Ashkenazi of European descent establishment. This includes Mizrahi Jews of Middle Eastern and North African descent, religious voters, and settlers in the West Bank. For these groups, Netanyahu is not just a politician, he is their representative, the man who stands up to the condescending elites in Tel Aviv, the media, and the Supreme Court. This was a key factor in his controversial judicial overhaul plan in 2023. While critics saw it as a dangerous power grab designed to protect him from his corruption trial, his supporters saw it as a necessary rebalancing of power, taking it from an unelected, activist judiciary and returning it to the people's elected representatives. The massive protests that erupted against the plan showcased the deep divisions in Israeli society, divisions that Netanyahu has not only managed, but actively cultivated for his political benefit. Which brings us to today. The last few years have been the most tumultuous of Netanyahu's career. His corruption trial is still moving forward, with cross-examination of the Prime Minister set to begin in the summer of 2025. If convicted on all charges, he could face significant prison time, though he is not legally required to resign, unless the conviction is upheld by the Supreme Court, a process that could take years. The October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas was a national trauma that shattered his image as the infallible Mr. Security. The subsequent war in Gaza has been long and brutal, leading to immense international pressure and isolation. In November 2024, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for him and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, for alleged war crimes, specifically the use of starvation as a method of warfare. This marked the first time the ICC had issued a warrant for the leader of a Western-backed democracy. meaning all 125 member states are obligated to arrest him if he enters their territory. Domestically, his government has been on the brink of collapse multiple times, most recently over a crisis concerning military service exemptions for the ultra-Orthodox community. His popularity has plummeted, and polls consistently show that a majority of Israelis want him to resign. And yet, he endures. The war with Iran that flared up in mid-2025 gave him a temporary political reprieve, uniting the country behind him at a moment of extreme vulnerability. His far-right coalition partners, while often causing him headaches, also know that their own power depends on his survival. Benjamin Netanyahu's career is a fascinating and often troubling case study in power. It shows how a leader can leverage fear, master a political system, control a narrative, and forge an identity-based coalition to maintain power against all odds. His tactics have been emulated by populist leaders around the world, but his story also reveals the costs of such a strategy. A deeply polarized society, strained democratic institutions, and a nation in a near-constant state of crisis. Well, what do you think? Has Netanyahu ultimately strengthened or weakened Israel? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So, how has Benjamin Netanyahu held on for so long? It's not one single thing, but a combination of these four pillars, all reinforcing each other. His security-first narrative justifies his hardline politics. His mastery of the political game lets him build the coalitions to implement that agenda. His control of the media allows him to sell that agenda directly to his base, while discrediting his critics. And his appeal to a specific economic and cultural identity ensures that his base remains loyal, no matter the scandal or crisis. Is he a master statesman or a manipulative strategist? Maybe the answer is both. His legacy will be debated for decades. Will he be remembered as the protector who's guided Israel through a dangerous world, or as the leader who fractured its society and strained its democratic soul for his own survival? What is clear is that Benjamin Netanyahu has fundamentally reshaped his country. In doing so, he's provided a powerful, if unsettling, blueprint for how power is won and held in our turbulent modern age. I've been Josh, and this has been The Villainous Vault. Thank you for watching. See you next time.